with you are enough it's a language. You are enough, as opposed to you are enough. But that language sits within us, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Because if some of us feel we are not enough, but we don't word it in those words, we just act it out. You know, you get in a situation, you feel inferior, and then you act from that position of inferiority. But the moment you make the language something that you verbalize, you know, because, and I base what I say on faith, what you believe, and your trust is based on what you hear. And what you hear, if it is the truth, the word of God, then that is what your faith is based on. Now, one can look at that universally, and one can look at that, how do you believe about, and what do you believe about yourself? And I have to say it, I have to speak it, because many of us have been programmed, sorry for the bad word, but programmed through life, through experiences, through traumas, through rejections, through the way people acted and responded towards us, that we have gained a language that lies subconsciously in us that says we are not good enough. So that's why I believe, especially in the mind renewal process, that if you want to change the faith, the belief, the trust that you have, and in this case, in yourself, you need to voice it. And the more you voice the truth, the more you will believe that, because faith cometh through hearing, and hearing the word of God. So the more we hear the truth as God perceives us, because boy, does he love us. Is he infatuated with us? Is he passionately, you know, sometimes I think he doesn't know what to do with himself, so much he loves us. And I know it's just words I'm using here. He knows what to do with himself. He's God. But I'm just trying to express his incomprehensible love for me, for Susan, for Corey, for Dol, for Corinne, for Derek, for every one of us. The moment we start to verbalize that, we put it out there, because there's a difference between just thinking something, mulling it over in a kind of a spiral, versus putting it out there. There's a lot to be said for verbalizing. You know, we can go in any case to places where it's scripturally accurate to say, you know, the power of life and death lies in the tongue. That's very powerful, a very powerful statement. So when you speak life, that is what you produce, because that's how God created, is by speaking. And that same kind of power through speaking, the spoken word, it can bring life or it can bring death. But one has to consciously engage with the process of, for instance, mind renewal, that you consistently speak the truth over yourself, because what you hear becomes what you believe. So it's very fundamental that we sometimes in a conversation, and that's also why I love the whole idea of a reflective space, is that I actually sometimes just reflect back to you what you've told me, so that you can hear it. That's why sometimes doing a process observation or drawing a distinction, because you tell me this, for other people, like in Susan's case, you can love other people easier than what you love yourself. I didn't make that up. That's what she communicated to me. So I'm just showing it to you. And when she sees it, it's like a revelation for some of us. Not always. Susan is very well grounded in a lot of self-awareness, but in some cases, you know, it's like a revelation. Is that the way I think about myself? And then obviously it poses the question, would you like to think that is who you are? And then the answer is often no, I wouldn't like to think that is who I am. Okay, you can change that. And part of the change would be to go through a process of mind renewal. Because if I draw the curtains a bit further back, Susan and I sat and had a very good, which I believe a very good conversation about 2 weeks ago where we talked about what I'm sharing with you here. And then I encouraged her and say, you know, this whole thing, faith comes through hearing the word of God or the truth. That the more we hear the truth, the more we will become that truth. But one has to consciously engage with that process. It doesn't automatically happen. One has to engage with it. And there's the self-talk that eventually ensues is like, and I told Susan, and well, it seems we're on track here, that I told her in 6 months' time or 8 months' time, you know, the self-talk that lies within yourself when you think about yourself and the way you speak about yourself to yourself would be completely different if the thinking that you have about yourself is permeated and ingrained and, you know, embedded with truth. Truth is the power that sets us free, but not, that's not the truth that I've just said. Actually, knowing the truth. Knowing means your mind processes that truth. And in this case, processes the truth about who you are. So the more your mind processes the truth of who you are, and there's only one that has got a complete, a full picture of who you are, who I am, who the next person is, and that's God, the Creator. So the more we embrace His thinking about, the more I embrace His thinking about who I am, the more I'm set free. What does that mean? It means that I will consider what you think about me, but I won't take it as the truth, especially if you hate me, or especially if you reject me, or especially if you think I'm an idiot, or especially if you think I'm worthless. I cannot embrace that thinking because there is higher thought, you know, tapped into or coming from as its source, the truth himself, my Father, your Father. And what he says, that is the truth. But, you know, as I say, it's not an automatic thing that we now know what he thinks of us. We need to, and retrain the mind is not a good word, but we need to allow the mind to continuously be washed with truth. And if we are the first ones that propagate that truth about ourselves, I mean, that's the best place to start. Because I can assure you, I can applaud you sometimes, and I can, you know, I can encourage you and compliment you. But if you don't do that yourself, mine is but a little dripple in the emmer. It's not valuable enough to really get you to a place where you live in complete freedom. And that freedom comes from knowing the truth of who you are. And that comes from engaging with embracing that truth and continuously reminding yourself of those truths of what he says who you are. So there for me is a whole science and a whole beauty and a whole, you know, foundation why I say that we need to train not a good word, but need to populate our minds with truth about who we are. And I think as coaches, we've got a huge role to fulfill to help our clients, you know, see that truth or reflect that truth so that they can become that. So it's not a flippant thing to do mind renewal in a very active way. And mind renewal is not only done in that way. I think Ignet is one of the first that will tell you that how powerful, for instance, worship can be to wash the mind with the truth, or how powerful reading the scriptures could be to wash the mind with the truth of who you are. There are many other ways as well, but that we engage with that process is a necessity before we really start to see ourselves through his eyes. And when we start to slowly but surely get there, seeing ourselves the way he sees us, we are set free in so many ways, so many ways. You know, baggage just falls off. You know, things that we believed about ourselves are just made redundant and replaced with the truth, because it's true that knowledge of the truth sets us free in a big way.